I want to go straight to the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Bob Corker, Republican of Tennessee. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Jake, good to be with you during these festive times.
That's right. Merry Christmas. You were heavily involved in the negotiations. You helped secure a deal requiring all the parties involved, Pelosi, Ryan, Schumer, McConnell, and President Trump, to publicly agree before a vote to end the shutdown. I have to say, I found it striking that part of this deal was that President Trump needs to publicly endorse it before there's any vote. Why?
Well, look, Jake, this is a purposely contrived fight over, at the end of the day, even no matter who wins, our borders are still going to be insecure. I think you know that back in 2013, John Hoeven and I crafted a border security amendment that passed with 69 votes in a Senate where Republicans were in the minority. I'm a junior senator from Tennessee. And 69 people voted for $46 billion to secure our border. It was overly prescriptive and it was overkill, but our borders would have been secure. Not long ago, just a few months ago, the president could have received $25 billion in border security just by dealing with the Dreamers, which, by the way, most Republicans want to deal with the Dreamers issue. So we had $25 billion that could have been spent on border security. Now the government is shut down over what ultimately is going to be $2 billion. This is a made-up fight so the president can look like he's fighting, but even if he wins, our borders are going to be insecure. And part of it is because of what we're spending the money on. We have all kinds of technology, as you know, that we can use to secure the borders. The $46 billion did include 700 miles of fencing, which was important, but there's all kinds of technology that we use in Iraq and Afghanistan to secure our borders. And so it's not unlike going to the Pentagon and saying, look, we need to buy fighters, and we have stealth fighters, and they're supersonic, and they have precision-guided missiles, but no, let's use the Wright brothers. And so it's not just about the money, it's about what we're spending it on. So we could secure our borders, we could solve this problem. This is a made-up fight, and I would just tell citizens across our country that turn this off, but focus on the significant things. The fact that we just announced we're pulling out of Syria.
Yeah, I want to get to that in a second.
Something that is... Yeah.
I want to get to that in 1 second, but let me I just want to just understand this. You're saying that President Trump, if he wants that money for the border wall, for border security, he can get it, but he needs to make a deal, but he doesn't want to make a deal. He just wants a campaign issue. Am I hearing you correctly?
It has to be that, because this is like falling off a table. The Democrats easily would support more border funding, border security. They've said that. 25 of them came to the floor and voted for something that provided $25 billion worth of border security in exchange for dealing with the Dreamers. And Republicans want to deal with the Dreamers. So this is something that is unnecessary. It's a spectacle. And candidly, it's juvenile. The whole thing is juvenile. I want to see real border security, and that's why I'm disappointed at where we've ended up at the end of this Congress.
I want to turn to foreign policy. The president tweeted about his Defense Secretary James Mattis yesterday. Mattis obviously resigned following the president's announcement he's pulling all U.S. troops from Syria. In his resignation letter, Mattis made it very clear he disagrees with the president when it comes to Mattis having respect for allies and alliances, that he thinks that China and Russia are bad actors. What was your reaction to it all?
Look, I'm saddened. We've been working with allies. There's some 60 coalition groups that are working with us. The SDF, which is made up of Kurds and Arabs, have been doing the fighting for us. We've been helping them do what they're doing, but they're the ones that are doing the fighting. We're in the final stages. ISIS is now concentrated in the Euphrates River Valley. We're just a few months away from finishing something that we started where we would annihilate a large number of ISIS members, and we stopped. I'm just saddened for our country. I'm saddened for the broken relationships with countries that have been with us. I'm saddened for the many Kurds and others that likely will be will be killed and slaughtered by either the Syrians or the Turks. I'm saddened for our country in being so unreliable. There are a number of, as you know, foreign fighters that are there as prisoners. What do we do with them? Do they go back to countries? Do we release them? I'm devastated by this, and I think that what Mattis did was very important for our country, because for some of these machinations that we see coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania, people realize they don't really matter. This one matters. This one matters to our country. It matters to our foreign interest. This matters to our citizens.
Senator, the president also tweeted yesterday about Brett McGurk. He's the top U.S. diplomat in the fight against ISIS, who announced he's going to leave his post early. The president tweeted, quote, Brett McGurk, who I do not know, was appointed by President Obama in 2015, was supposed to leave in February, but he just resigned prior to leaving. Grandstander? The fake news is making such a big deal about this nothing event. Now, in point of fact, obviously, Brett McGurk was working for George W. Bush before he was working for Obama. But to the point that the president brings up in this, he doesn't know the special presidential envoy for the global coalition to defeat ISIS?
Yeah, so I would not be surprised that they have not had a meeting. He is a real talent. I've met with him many times. We've all dealt with him through the years, and he was leaving in February, but as Mattis just did, one of the greatest patriots I've ever met in my public service, General Mattis. But as Mattis did, he followed suit and left, and he did the right thing. So I don't look at that as grandstanding. He's been an important person to us. Obviously, the Secretary of Defense is in a higher role and a much higher profile position and much more important. But Brent has played an important role for our country. I thank him for his service. I thank him for dealing with the most difficult issue, and I wish him well as he moves on.
Well, listen to this, Senator Corker. This is something you said more than a year ago about President Trump and what some people called the axis of grown-ups. Take a listen.
I think Secretary Tillerson, Secretary Mattis, and Chief of Staff Kelly are those people that help separate our country from chaos.
Tillerson was fired via Twitter. Mattis and Kelly are going to be leaving in the coming days and months. First of all, it's hard to imagine that the last year is the year without chaos, but should we expect even more chaos than we have already been experiencing, given the lack of these three men in the administration?
Yeah. So look, I had a lot of respect for these three gentlemen and some who've come on since. I think what's happened really about 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, I noticed a real change. And I don't think that, I doubt there's anybody that really can, I think the president has felt that, look, I've got this now. Input from people like this is much less relevant to me. I've got this under control. So I think we're just in a whole different period now. When you've got Secretary Pompeo, John Bolton, General Mattis laying out all the problems that could occur with a precipitous decision like was tweeted out about Syria, and yet it still happens, I think you're at a place now where we're beyond that. And again, some devastating decisions are being made even with people giving strong input in the opposite direction. So I don't know what to say about it. Jake, I've done as much as I can as a senator. I'm leaving soon to point out all the problems with this type of decision making. Now we're into something that's incredibly sober as it relates to Syria and possibly Afghanistan coming soon. And somehow or another, I hope that the president will see fit to make some decisions here that are not ultimately devastating to our country.